Fantastic. Yeah, welcome everyone along. We're going to be learning a little bit more about using the EstuaryWatch portal today. I wanted to provide you with an example of the portal, and I am going to share my screen shortly. Sort myself out. Here we are. And really, I just wanted to put us in context. This is a group of students called the Gordon TAFE students, and they were monitoring in Spring Creek. And I took them out there just to sort of, let them know about this monitoring program. Whilst we were there, we collected some data. So this is our data sheet. And the thing is, when we're collecting our data, going from the data sheet to the computer, you can either take a photograph of it or scan it if you've got a scanner at home. For ease of reading, let's just rotate that around. And you can see it's a relatively simple form. I've got myself as the sampler. I assess the, oh goodness, wonder what that is. Assess the site for hazards. I've got some identification on the sheet, which is that we're at Spring Creek and the site was S1, and I'd measured the depth of the site. Date and time are both really important, and having the time in 24-hour format is important. Some notes were gathered on the day, and this is the depth profile at the site. So you can see from the depth it was only 0.52 metres. So that means we recorded at 10 centimetres below the surface, and then 10 centimetres above the bottom of the creek. So there were only 2 measurements taken. And so those 2 measurements will be entered into the data portal. You can see that there's a column that wasn't filled out, and that's because the equipment I was using was a YSI, what was it, a Pro Solo, and it doesn't show salinity in parts per thousands, but we can ask the data portal to do a conversion, and that can be put into, that can be automatically added to the portal. 2 other bits of information were taken, and that was the turbidity and the pH. Now, you'll notice that whilst I recorded the turbidity as less than 9, the data portal will only put in straight numbers. So the less than symbol won't be able to be recorded. So leaving that data sheet, I wanted to show you how I go about logging in. So in my favorites, I've got my EstuaryWatch portal listed there. And in the, let's see, just have to move you, Justine. I'll hit the login button to get in. So because I've already logged in, that's why it's gone straight there, but everyone should have a username and password. And if you don't, just get in contact with us. So entering data, there's a document called the EstuaryWatch Administration Guide, and that can be found in the help section, this little section over here. And it's a really useful document. And I would suggest that you could download it just using this little tab and keep it on your computer as a point of reference. Another thing you might want to do once you're logged in is go to the Profile tab, update your profile with your details. You can change your password here if you need to. And whilst I've got additional tabs because I'm a coordinator, there's a couple there that you won't have, for instance, like configuration. Have an explore of these tabs when you get the opportunity. The Home tab shows me data that's been entered. The Site tab shows me different sites across the region. And the Observation tab is the one I often use for adding new observations. On page 9 of the admin how-to guide, it's got ways of adding the observations. So I'll just stop sharing my screen for a tick, because I think it'd be good just to see your faces and see if there's any issues at this point or any feedback at this point. Just wanted to know whether anyone has downloaded this document before. No, no one's done it before. Well, now you know where it is. That's good.
I can email it to everybody as well after the session.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Did you say that we can put on more volunteers or take them off in that one of those things?
That's up to me.
Oh, you can do that, but we can't. I thought that was the case.
Yeah. But if you think that there's something that's not quite right on your descriptions of your estuaries, you just say, and we can do something about it. Okay, I'm going to go back to the data portal, and I'm going to be going through ways to enter data according to this manual. And so the data entry starts on page 9, and I'll just point out a few things as we go. Okay, we're back. Okay, so there's as I mentioned, I like to add new observations from this observations tab. It's as simple as if I look at an estuary, as I mentioned before, it was Spring Creek that I add data to. But you can see that there's so many other estuaries available that I can add data to. And as we look here, there's recent data entries that have been put into that estuary. Now, what I'll be adding is that data sheet that you saw before, which was a PhysChem data sheet. This is a useful set of filters as well, because there's different sites. We can see the status, whether things are being approved or they're waiting for a coordinator to approve them. And we can also look at data that has, within a certain date range. But what I want to do is add a new observation. So let's do it. Okay, so the observation that we're going to add is for a particular site. And I'm going to choose Spring Creek. There's several sites here, but the one I'm going to be entering is S1, the boardwalk near the estuary mouth. And as soon as I put that in, we start to see some information that can be entered. I can just scroll down with my mouse just to get more lines on the screen. Now, according to my data sheet, can I find my data sheet? I'll get my data sheet up so that you can see it. I wonder if I can pop it here for now. And with this screen here, I'm going to see if I can shrink that a little bit so that we can see both things at once. Writing might start to get a bit small, but see how we go. Okay, so S1, I've got my data sheet in front of me. I can now enter the date. It's got an easy way of entering dates just through the calendar. So I believe it's the 12th of September that data was collected, and the time it was collected was 1400 hours. As I mentioned before, you've got to use a 24-hour clock. There we are. And I could have typed that in as well. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. The samplers, I'm going to put myself in. Because I said I was working with a student group, none of the students are registered in the portal, so I'm not going to add them. On the day, I did some calibration. So I'm going to say that the meter type, I'm going to pop that in. It was a YSI Pro Solo. And I borrowed it from Anglesey for the day. So there it is, I'm popping it in. And the pH meter I used was a L'Aquatwin pH meter. Now, having this information here is important because it's like a quality assurance step. Anyone who is referring back to this information in the future will say, she used a pH meter, not pH strips. That's the type of thing that is really valuable. The calibration checks were performed. Now, it's on the data sheet here that the ones that I needed to calibrate, and it was only the pH meter that I needed to calibrate, but the checks were performed on DO, EC, and the calibration was on pH. So that's very important information from quality assurance as well. We don't have a membrane replacement for this one, so I'm going to leave this one blank. Now, we talked before about the maximum depth, and that's that value up here, which was 0.52. So in it goes. I've just entered it. And you can see I've got these rows in which I can enter data. So at the 0.1 meters of depth from the surface, I'm going to be entering my temperature of 16.1. I'm not entering salinity because I didn't measure that using my meter, but I've got a DO measurement here of 9.63 milligrams per litre. I've got percent saturation of 107.1. And EC, which is electrical conductivity in millisiemens per centimetre of 24.7. Now, I know you can't see that very well. If I expand this, you can see it. But I'll just shrink it down now so that I can add the rest of the data. Okay, so I said that because we needed to measure the next set of data 10 centimetres above the bottom of the river, this isn't going to be at a 0.5, it's going to be 0.4. And I'm going to enter the temperature of 15.9. The salinity, skip that one. DO, dissolved oxygen, milligrams per litre. Percent saturation, 107.2. And the EC, which was 24.8. Beautiful. That's in. I've got some notes here. Windy conditions and sampled with the Gordon tape, and I'll pop that in a minute. I'll expand this so that we can see it. All right. Now, that was meant to be a 0.4. All right. So you can see I've got some lines here I don't need. Simple as removing them like this. For someone who's monitoring in a very deep estuary, and both Anglesey has some deep spots, Gellibrand's got some deep spots, you can actually add lines as well using the plus buttons. We talked before about the turbidity and the pH. I can't put in a less than sign, but I'll put in my 9. And for those that need to know, turbidity is the clarity of the water. pH, measuring the acidity of the water. As I recall, what was our pH? 8.1 and 8.1. Let's put those in. Okay, so are there any questions at this point? Maybe I'll stop sharing for a minute and just check in. So those steps are pretty straightforward. It is just a matter of entering the numbers. So everyone's good? Okay. Going back. All right, so another item on the data sheet is this thing called a flow estimate. It's looking at the flow that's coming from upstream, downstream, through your estuary and out to sea. Sometimes you can see flow, sometimes you can't. If the estuary has barred up, like it's blocked with sand, and a berm has formed, it's unlikely that you'll be able to see any flow at all, and it will just look like a pool, like a lagoon. And that's certainly the case here. If you know that there's been super amounts of rainfall upstream, you might click something like slow because it'll be filling. But because you're not going to see that change in the estuary, I usually just pop in pooled. And here we can put in some notes. So I think I had that it was a windy day. Yeah, windy conditions sampled with the Gordon tape. All right. This is also an opportunity to put in things that you've noticed at the estuary. Now, Graham, thank you for all the annotations you've added in the past to your observations. You know, things like if you've got a blue-green algal bloom, this is a place to write down your observations. Yes, it's smelly. The water is discoloured. It's green. If there is a unusual, you know, some dead crabs or some dead fish, this is the place to write it. Okay, so looking good. Next part is adding images. So if you had a picture of that blue-green algae, you could put it in here. But at the very least, what we want in here is our data sheet. Again, it's a quality assurance step. So I'm going to show you how I add files. I have I've got my folder here, and I can drag and drop into the data portal. So this, where is it? Where has it gone?
Is that on the bottom left, D? Or is that?
Mouth condition. Oh, there it is. S1. Thanks for trying to see that far away. All right. Here it is. I just grab it and I drop it in. So S1 was my data sheet. So once it's been dropped in, you can just follow these instructions here. Drag files into the box below or click Add Files to select files from your computer. To upload a photo taken from your device, there's these instructions here. And once you've popped it in, you hit the Start Upload. Now, you'll notice that with my directory over here, all these things are images. I didn't use scans. Scans drop in very easily. Images, if the image is too large, it has to be shrunk down. Let's see if it entered. Ta-da, there it is. Beautiful. Now I can annotate this and write down that it is a data sheet that I've included here. There were other options. There were photographs, miscellaneous, but in this case, it's a data sheet. And I'm going to now hit the continue button. I've entered my data. So the observation has been added successfully. The coordinator has been notified. We can have a preview of it. And whilst it's in preview, it can be modified. But as soon as it's been approved, you can't modify it anymore. And then it's now publicly available as well. Even though it hasn't been approved, it's publicly available. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Most people find it pretty straightforward to add data. If you've got a lot of data lines, it's easy to stumble over a few typos, and that's why it's so important for the coordinators to also look at the data sheet, and just in case there's been a typo or two, and then we're making sure that we've got the best data available. I might just pause for a minute. I see something in the chat. Lyndon, you've got a copy. Oh, that's regarding the EstuaryWatch data entry guide. Yep, gotcha. Okay. So is there anything else? Oh, yeah.
Deirdre, I'm assuming that you, with the sites and everything, they all get loaded in by the coordinator based upon what you're monitoring. So, you know, if you're deciding to set up a new collection of locations and sites to monitor within an estuary, you load those in, or is that the process? You know, we provide you with the coordinates and someone else does that part for them to go down.
Yeah. I would ask Justine and Emma to load that up for you, and they'll either do it themselves or go through the 30 people, the developers, and they'll make sure it's in there. Okay, so did you want to look at how to put in a mouth condition monitoring sheet? What do you think, Emma, Justine? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to now share again. We'll go back to my big old screen here. I'll go big here. All right, that's what we were up to. We had this opportunity to edit it. So I'm going back to observations. So from my screens, again, I like to be on the observations tab in order to add my new observation. In this case, I'm going to add some mouth condition monitoring. So the site, it's the Gordon TAFE students. So we're going to be back at Spring Creek. So I'm just going to scroll down Spring Creek, and there's a site called SMC, Mouth Condition Observation Site. Once we've clicked that, we can now add our data. So let's have a look at my data. It's this data sheet here, and back. Yeah, there we are. Just make this a little bit bigger so that we can see it, and I can rotate it. There we are. So mouth condition monitoring sheet. Again, the data at the top is important. Who was doing the observations, whereabouts. As I mentioned before, there's this mouth state, whether it's open, perched, or closed, and that's got to be noted on the data sheet. The date, the time in 24-hour clock, and again, we want to assess the site for hazards. There could be some on the beach, I suppose you could have a dog that's a bit jumpy, and, you know, there could be a storm coming. You know, these type of hazards will determine whether you're going to be continuing the data or you just leave. Depends. You've just got to look out for your safety. So once this is done, there are observations to be made. When the mouth is closed, there won't be any flow present. So we've written no, and the direction, it's not going anywhere, so it's not applicable. I didn't write in here what the photo site was, and there was a photo site. It was S1, SMC. Trying to remember. We'll find out in a minute. And the number of photos taken were 3. We do some berm measurements, and this is measuring the length of the berm. And in this case, it was 53 metres. We were looking at the height above the river. It had only just closed. This is like it was quite a small 20 centimetres between the height of the river and the top of the berm. And then on the other side, it was a pretty low tide. And so we're able to get a large number here of 1.75. Other information that's been added, the water level. This water level was taken from a local gauge, and I'll show you a picture of it. Here it is. So there was a gauge further upstream, and we note down what the level is. And it looks like it's just over 1.5 metres. Sorry, wrong one. There it is, 1.5 metres, and the time at which that observation was taken. You can also do a observation of the water level at the end of the session, and that's particularly important if you've got a very dynamic system. If you've got a lot of rainfall coming in and that water level is likely to change, it's very important to take that observation at the end. Has there been a tidal influence at the site? Well, I said yes, because I could see seaweed present, and that seaweed was between that was on top of the berm. It was between the sea and the river. So that's how I knew that there was a tidal influence. And as I mentioned, it had only just closed. The tidal range, this information, you just don't get it on the beach. You've got to look for it. So where I go is to Willy Weather. So it's a really helpful website. And you look for tides data, and it's a simple Google search, and you can pop in a new date and it will give you the high tides and the low tides. So going back here.
I've got Vic Tides as on my computer, which is a better one than the Willy Weather one. I think I've also got Willy Weather as well. But
okay.
Or Tides Vic. Tides Vic.
Thanks, Graham. I'll make sure that we take notice of that, and we'll pop it in the chat so that other people can access that link. So that's really useful, because then you know that, like for instance, the low tide was at 2:30 in the afternoon, and that helps explain why there was such a big drop here on the seaside. Also, we put in information about the wind direction and the strength of the wind and the state of the sea. The people there, we were just visitors on the day, so we're able to get the current data. But because we weren't there for the last 2 weeks, we don't know what the usual data is like for wind direction or sea state. Okay, so let's enter this information into the portal. So I'll just see if we can have the two things side by side. Yep, here we go. A mouth condition. The date was the 12th of September. The time was 14:30. The sampler, just put me in. Mouth observation. The state was closed. There was no flow present. There was no flow direction. The berm length was 53.1. The berm height above the sea, 1.75. And above the river was 0.2. We're going to write those bits of information about the height at the start, 1.5 metres, and that was from the gauge. We don't have any finished data. Should have done it. Tidal influence. We're saying there was a tidal influence, and we could put comments in later saying that there was seaweed. There it is, seaweed present. And also the ripples on the sand. That's telling me that there was the tide was having an influence. We're going to pop in things about the tide. So the time of the tide for the high tide was 9:44. The height was 1.3. Low tide was at 14:33, and the height was 0.9. I can put some things about the wind direction. All right, so I had west, northwest. So I don't have that degree of detail. I can only do northwest or west. So I'll choose northwest this time. The Beaufort scale was 5, which is a fresh breeze. The sea state was slight. And I've written my notes in. All right, we're at the point where we're adding our photos. So let's have a look. In my folder, I've got all my information here. The photos I want to add is the data sheet. I want to add some pictures as well. There's a series of 3 pictures of the mouth that is part of the photo point monitoring. So there's my first picture, my second picture, and my third picture. And I'll hit the start upload button. And you can see my progress here. Excellent. If the file's too big, the program will cut it down to a manageable size. They've all been uploaded. So I'm going to call this a data sheet. Photograph 1 is a photo point monitoring. So it's photograph, photo point site SP1-1. The next one is SP1-2. And ta-da, SP1-3. And so I can now hit the continue button. And it provides a summary of what we just added to the board, to the EstuaryWatch portal. There it is, 1, 2, 3. And at this point, I'll go back to Teams and stop sharing and see if there's any questions.
Deirdre, could you define perched for me, please?
Yeah, okay. It's simple, as I've heard it, it's simply that the water level is perched above the sea. There may be some trickling from that to the sea because of just natural drain, but it's one of those unusual terms. So it means that the level is much higher than the sea. And
Or
that's
even,
probably
what you just under the sea.
Pardon?
When it becomes perched, or we've had the Curtis with it's been tidal for a long while, and then all of a sudden it started to get just a sheen on the water, on the berm, and at a high tide the water would come in, then some of it would flow out again, but not very fast. And when does it become perched? That's the one.
I guess when it's not communicating with the sea anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to know because sometimes it depends on the tide and on the wind and all sorts of things. But
I reckon what we can do is get a definition and share it, because it is a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's no further questions about data entry, because that was nice and straightforward, why don't we talk about photo issues? Hey, Emma.
Yay! Before I go on, Kerry, we're just in the process of setting up East Gippsland in the EstuaryWatch portal too. So you'll have your own region in there where you can start entering data as well. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
let
great.
you know that one. Yeah, they're just in the process of kind of just making sure it all works properly.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've got the topic of photo orientation and the issues of uploading upside down, which I think there's been a lot of volunteers struggling with that, and including coordinators struggling with that as well. So it's kind of, yeah, a problem across everybody. So I suppose the first issue you've already said, Graham, is that I think a lot of the issues are coming from those users that are using Macs or Apple devices. They seem to be, yeah, kind of turning them all upside down. But I've got a few kind of basic steps that we can kind of go through to ensure that kind of we rectify that or reduce that in the least. So before we start, I'm just going to share you just a PowerPoint presentation just to kind of go through those steps of how to fix that. So can everybody see that one? Yep, hopefully. Is that a yes? Deidre, yep. Yep, cool, thanks, Justine. All right, thinking, oh dear, where's it gone? So the first thing to do, and if you've got your device with you, you're more than welcome to kind of just follow along. But how we kind of rectify this will be different from an Android device and an Apple device. So I'm just going to start with the Apples to begin with. So if you're out in the field and you've got an Apple laptop, an Apple iPad, or just an Apple phone, to ensure that your photo is taken in the correct way that can speak properly to the EstuaryWatch portal, you need to make sure that your device has the rotation lock off. So how you do that is you can swipe the right top corner of your screen of your iPad or your phone, which opens up this little control panel up here. And you can see I've just circled the button that needs to be off. So you need to make sure that the rotation lock button is off before you proceed with your photo. So that was the one for the Apple. And for Android, it's a little bit more simpler. So if you've got an Android tablet or an Android phone, you just scroll down. So it's kind of the same thing, but you're swiping down from the top part of your screen downwards. And that will also open up a control panel. And you've got a circle button here, which is your auto rotate button. And you need to make sure that the rotate button is on before you proceed taking your photo. So if your auto rotate is on the wrong setting, if you're using your device and taking a photo in a different kind of, you're holding it in a different way, you're probably going to end up with an upside down photo. Okay. When you come back, and you save them, or you're using it from your PC or your Mac computer, you must make sure that your photos are saved as a JPEG, which is the JPG one, which I've circled down here. So you'll find that there's two. There's a JPEG and then there's the JPG. Now you need to make sure that it's saved as a JPG. If it's any other setting, it won't work and the database won't recognize it. So it's very simple. All you do is you open up your photo. When you go to save it, you go down to save as type and it'll give you all these options of formats. You just need to make sure that you select the one that's the JPG and then you save. Okay, so if you go out into your site and you accidentally don't adjust those settings on your device, there is a way that you can come back and rectify that, but it is a little bit complicated, but you can do it. So you've gone out to your site, you've accidentally haven't pressed that auto rotate button or turned the lock off. You come back, you upload your photo and it's all upside down. You can go into your photo on your PC or your laptop and you can actually edit it. The editing package or the software photo package that I use is the Adobe Photoshop Express for Windows 10. It's free and it's actually strong enough to actually change those photo settings, or we call the metadata, to ensure that when you auto rotate it in that editing software, that it will remain the right way up when you go to upload it. So what you do is you go into your photo, you right click on the photo that's upside down and you go select with or open with. Now I've got this one here. Now others might have different software packages that they can use. It's just going to be trial error of which ones work. So you just open with, you choose the one that you want to choose, you go into it, you edit it by rotating it, and then you save it. And then that should rectify that problem. So I'm just going to come back, stop sharing, and we can have a chat. Okay, where is everybody? There we go. All right. So does that make sense?
I've got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
On the Apple iPhone, that
Yep.
lock, what did you call that lock?
It's the auto rotate, I think it is. Let me have a look.
Oh, the lock, when you go in, you said you make sure it's off.
Yeah, the rotation lock button.
Oh, is that, so is off the default set? Like, I've never looked at that before. And if I press it, it says it goes red. But if
Yep.
it's, otherwise it's not, it's just plain. So which one's off?
Yeah, so off, you don't want it red.
Okay, so it's default.
Yeah.
red. So it's,
But
so it's
it's
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the opposite to Android. So with an Apple, you're turning it off, and with an Android, you're turning it on. So they're just totally, completely two different devices, which is very confusing. But for an Apple, yeah, you want to make sure that that's not red.
Great, thank you.
That's okay. And if you go out and you take your photo and that's that the settings right, and you bring it back, you won't have any issues with uploading your photos. It should rectify that whole problem.
Okay. I wonder what do people use that for? I've never even thought about it. I've never even noticed it, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know what they use it for. I don't actually have an Apple, but I dragged out my son's iPad the other day and yeah, it's interesting.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
That's all right, no worries. I don't think many people are having issues with their Android devices, but look, yeah, for the purpose of the exercise, maybe it's just a common thing that we just make sure that that rotation is set. So yeah, just in case. But I think it's more the Apple users that the problem's happening from. So yeah, do anyone want any further clarification on that one, or does that help? Or
Emma, that's really helpful. That's really straightforward. You know, in preparing for this session, Emma, myself and Justine, we were trying to troubleshoot this and discover what are the triggers that make this rotten thing happen. And thanks, Emma, for really drilling down into those lock settings.
No, that's fine, Maddie. Yeah, it's a confusing one.
Oh, also, I've just popped in the chat a definition of perched that's come from the EstuaryWatch manual. And for those that wanted to know, perched is an estuary which consistently has water levels above the mean sea level. So that is saying that there's you're not getting that communication of water, I think.
Thanks, Deirdre.
Okay.
About photographs, by the way, I use a real camera to take my photos rather than my iPhone or anything else. But that has overcome the problem of getting them up the right way. But it creates other problems for me at times too. But I think it's beyond or you would hear at this stage.
Yeah, that's fine. It's tricky, isn't it, Graham? Because you said that you're converting the photos from your camera onto a Mac. Was that correct?
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it's tricky, isn't it? So I suppose when you upload them, you'll know if they're upside down or not. So it's kind of, look, I'll send through the instructions of what I had to Deirdre and she can email them out, but there is a way that you can do it. You've just kind of got to edit it before you put it onto the portal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'll send that through to Deirdre.
Yeah.
Justine, on our agenda, I think we had, if we wanted to look for sites and just explore the database, but I guess it's nearly 11 o'clock, so we might skip that one. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, is there anyone who'd like to stay on? Oh, and that depends on you, Dee and Emma as well. Have you got time to spend maybe another 10 minutes to show how to download the data? Or should we make this another session? And would everyone like?
We've actually got some a project we're delivering tomorrow that we need to go and do a field assessment for. So we'll have to depart, I'm afraid. Thank you very much. This has been fantastic.
Thanks, Lyndon.
Oh,
Yes, I go as well. So
I have to go. I'm happy to stay, but I just realised I'm right down to 5%. So if I drop out, I've just tried to plug in and everything, but if I drop out, sorry about that. I think I should be fine.
That's all right. So, Graham?
Yep.
You're all good?
Thank you. Yes. I'll leave now. Goodbye.
Okay.
See you later.
See you later, Graham.
Okay, good, Jane and Sally. Have you got things that you'd like to know about from the portal, how to access the data? Is that something that you'd be interested in? Emma, did you have any ideas about what you'd want to share?
I just put down some notes of looking at that chart in the map portal. Yeah, I thought that's really interesting for those volunteers that kind of want to have a quick snapshot of maybe what's happening or trending in their sites. I thought that was a cool one to look at.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, all right. Threw myself into that one, didn't I? All right, I'll just share the map portal if I can. Sorry.
Just quickly, I think I am going to drop out. So thanks anyway. I'll stay on, but it's going down very fast. I just got a sign. So
no worries, Sally.
Thank you. Thank you.
No worries. Okay. So we've still got Jane and Sally. Yep, cool. All right. So we've got, I don't know if you've had a look at this one, but kind of like it's works alongside the EstuaryWatch portal, but this is kind of like a public one where anybody can kind of come in and have a look at what's happening in their local areas and what data is available at particular sites. So if we go select data portal, okay, so we've got a list of all the WaterWatch and EstuaryWatch sites that are being monitored across Victoria. But if you keep going down, you can actually select an estuary that's of interest. So I'm going to select the Anglesea River estuary. And then It kind of gives a little bit of a snapshot of the estuary. And if we keep going down, we're actually able to identify a site of interest within that estuary. So I'm going to have a look at A1. Okay. And then we have all these little tabs across the top here about our particular site. So what I was talking about was the chart. So I'm going to go in and have a look at the chart for A1, site A1. Okay, so it kind of does a little bit of a basic analysis of the data that's already in the portal. And we can actually adjust that to what is of interest to us. So we can kind of change the date range. So I'm going to go back to 2019 to kind of get a really good idea of what's happening over about 5 years. And then we're going to apply it. We can also choose what parameters of our interest. So what I was looking at last night was looking at an estuary event or a mouth state, which is just the condition. And then I kind of graphed that against dissolved oxygen. And then we go apply. And then if we go up, okay, it tells you what's been happening over the last 5 years with the data that's been entered into the portal. So I assume the C is, the mouth is closed. Is that correct, Deidre?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, and the O is open. So you can kind of have a look at what's happening to dissolved oxygen over time against the opening and the closing of the estuary mouth, which is kind of, I thought was quite fascinating. So yeah, I suppose the chart just kind of tells you a story of what's happening, depending on what parameters you look at. So another one might be, you know, what's another one good one to look at? Cross-check against pH.
pH.
Take away dissolved oxygen. So apply pH. So there we go. We've got pH going across it kind of, so you can have a look here. It's had a big dip in January 23. Yeah, and then it's kind of peaked over here in June, I assume that this year. So yeah, I suppose it's just quite fascinating to have a little bit of a play around, see what's happening over a period of time, what trends might be happening for that particular site. Yeah, so that's all I got, Deidre. I don't know if you've got anything else to add.
No, I like it. Yeah, just knowing that those filters can be changed, and
Yeah.
And it tells a good story.
Yeah, that's about it.
What were the other headings at the top, Emma?
So other headings. So you got an overview, which is kind of just an introduction or the basic information about that particular site. You've got a map of where your site is located, which is quite cool. You've obviously got the chart. You've got a list of observations, and also I think Justine was talking about where you can download data sets. You can do that in this tab here, and you can export all the PhysChem data into Excel, all the observation photos, all the site photos. So it's a great place if you're looking at just downloading a whole bunch of data sets and raw data. That would be where you would do that. And the other thing is you can actually save the chart too, which I thought was quite cool. You can download that. Where was it? There we go. Yep. Download image if you wanted to cut and paste it to somewhere else. Yeah, that's a really quick. Hopefully that you got that in, Sally, before your thing died.
Yeah, thank you. I know, hanging in there, 2%, 2%.
That was very quick and nasty.
Is there a way to overlay multiple sites within this, multiple sampling sites within the same? No.
No, unfortunately, it only looks at them individually.
Okay.
if you wanted to do that, I suppose that's where you've got that access to download those data sets, and then you could do that yourself in Excel.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
I think there was a graphic that was designed to look at the whole of the like the salt wedge, but it required that all the data was collected on the same day from all the sites. And if I find a link to that, I'll show it to you. I'll just have a scratch around, but yeah, downloading data, downloading charts. That's the way to go.
Thank you.
I think we're done, Justine.
Yeah, I think we've come to the end of our agenda. Jane and Sally, did you have any other questions about anything to do with the portal or EstuaryWatch while we've got you here?
Not that I can think of now, but yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a couple. I was wondering if there's any training coming up on taking the physical measurements.
That'll be me, Jane. I can. I'll come and visit the Anglesey group in the near future, and we can go through that that operation of taking measurements. Is at the Anglesey site. But are you thinking of a bit more general, or meeting other volunteers and going to a different estuary just to have that experience?
Well, I might have got the wrong end of the stick. I thought that when I was talking to Gabriel about it, that she said that there's sort of like formal training that you do to ensure, you know, that you're just doing it correctly. Obviously, at the moment, I'm just working with the other guys down here and taking their lead. But I thought that there was sort of a, not requirement, but it was sort of better to have done it more formally. But if that's not a thing, then that's fine. It's no drama.
No, you are absolutely completely right, because we do a safety induction with new volunteers. Just that I haven't had the opportunity to get to Anglesey with you yet.
Fine.
So
yeah, no dramas, no rush. And the other thing was that was quite site specific. In our box, someone might have cleared this up with you already since last time we were out in the field, but our pH meter, there's a note on it that says that the sensor was replaced, but that there was an actual replacement unit coming, and we weren't sure as a group with the people that were present on the day whether the replacement pH meter had actually, that's what we were using, or whether the one that we were using had just had the sensor replaced.
the one you're using has a replaced sensor, so it's working again. But I was going to get a new one just to.
Okay, that's cool.
It
seems fine.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Thank you. That was it. That was all I had. Thank you.
No worries, Jane.
I guess we could also mention that we're going to be doing quality assurance and quality control in March with hopefully all the volunteers across this. Oh, actually, it's not in March, is it, Deirdre? That's for WaterWatch.
We do it at the same time, estuaries and WaterWatch.
Okay. Yeah, so that's sort of like, yeah, it's also about training as well, where we hope to get all the volunteers together, and we've got samples from a lab, and the lab's told us exactly what each of the parameters are, and then as a group you come together and use all the equipment and test the samples, and that you do your calibration beforehand, but it helps to make sure that everyone's on the same page and doing the water quality the same. So when you can measure it against the numbers that the lab has given us. I'm making a terrible mess of explaining this. Deirdre, can you have a go at it?
You're doing a fine job. Yeah, it's quality assurance again. It's just making sure that what we measure is what it's expected to be. And exactly right, Justine. Being able to do it as a group is really helpful because you get immediate feedback and learn with other people. So it's not intimidating at all. It's really good.
And then if you get a number that's not aligning with what the lab has sent us, you can think, oh, okay, have I calibrated the meter? What else can I do? Am I not collecting it correctly? So it's sort of, yeah, it's a great process for all the volunteers to go through to make sure they're getting the right number that's expected. So that is in March. Is that right, Deirdre and Emma?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And where is that?
Every region does it in their sort of local area. It's likely that I'll probably do it somewhere near Aries Inlet, but I'll also head on down to the Shipwreck Coast so that the Curdies and Jellybrand people can also have a session.
Okay.
I think Sally's frozen. Okay, she must have run out of juice.
I think that's it now. Jane, was that it for your questions as well?
Yeah, it was. Thank you. That was a really good session. It's kind of what I expected, but good to see it and really useful tips for those photos. I'll pass that on to the people.
I'll also make this recording available on our new website as well. So if you need to refer back to it, it'll also be in our chat too. So you can go back to it through the chat, but I'll put it on the new website as well. So if you're confused or need to refer, it'll be there.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome. All
Thanks,
right.
Justine.
I think that's it.
Good one. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks much. Good to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. All the best.
See you later, Jane. Bye.
Oh. I think Deirdre's left us again.
Yeah, I might give you both a call on Teams.
Yeah, no worries. Awesome. Okay.
Bye.
All right. See you, mate.